Hello and welcome to the Bee Formless Flow-Driven CEO podcast. Talk about being global. What a thrill and what an honor. I have my first guest all the way from Nairobi in Kenya. Welcome to the show, Edwin Mwangi. And I haven't got your surname exactly right, but Edwin, you can pronounce it better for me, but welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Belinda. My name is Edwin Mwangi. I am the Chief Business Officer at Workpay. Workpay is a startup in the HR space, trying to solve for payroll compliance across Africa. We, of course, started in Kenya back in 2019, and we've been scaling across all the markets in Africa. It's a pleasure
Wow.
to be here, and thank you for the invite.
That's okay, and you can call me B, Edward. I was about to call you
Yeah.
Ed, but I'm going to stick to Edwin. And Edwin, you just seem to you just kind of completely changed my show. You just introduced yourself and you did your whole bio. I love that. Thank you. Thank you. But one thing you didn't mention is you're the founding member. And I was once a founding member of a previous company that I used to work for. And it's quite a ride when you're a founding member, in terms of being there from the very beginning. And I'm really excited to be talking to you about that and having the lens of the founding member and what it's like to work with the founders and watch all the, you know, highs, lows, in betweens, nothing. I still do. I call it was always organized chaos. It was always chaotic, but somehow we found a way to organize it. When you booked in for the pod, you also, when I asked you what one unique insight when it comes to life, leadership, and/or business, you said failure is the fuel of innovation and change. And I really want to unpack what it's like what it's like to be a founding member, what your experience has been like, especially as Chief Business Officer at Workpay. And also why you called out failure is the fuel of innovation and change, because no doubt you've seen quite a few failures in the business and then how you pivot and you're smiling constantly at me. So it looks like you're relating. And the fact that you're in Africa, right? You're in an emerging country, lots of, there's change everywhere, but a very emerging, a lot of business moving into your region, your area. So tell us a little bit about, yeah, your journey. How did you become a founding member as a starting point?
Thank you so much for that. Back in 2018, Workpay was started by two co-founders, that's Paul and Jackson. One of the founders is Paul. We went to the same university with him. I did business and he did electrical engineering. So both of the co-founders have technical backgrounds. So they formed the MVP around 2018. They were building the MVP, and then when it was ready to go to the market, they needed a face or someone to lead the GTM. And Paul, of course, reached out to his network, and that's how we connected. He asked me whether I would be interested to come and lead the go-to-market strategy for a new startup. Previously I worked in a bank, and I always was fascinated by the idea of building for Africa and solving, for Africa by Africans. Yeah? And it was exciting, and I said, let's do it. So I was the first salesperson. I actually closed the first client, and I had no team by then. I was working solo on the sales, and then I started hiring. I had my two interns in 2019, and basically I have built the sales force from the ground up to a team now of around 40 people with two VPs now.
Wow.
Reporting to me. One heads the partnership arm and the other one heads the commercial team. So it's been a journey of trying, failing, coming back, succeeding. And maybe I can highlight a few instances, maybe to put a to put context to what I said about failure being the fuel for innovation and change. So we just started before COVID. That was 2019, and in that 1 year, we grew like 20% month on month. We were on a roll.
Wow.
And then at the end of 2019, we got into Y Combinator. That is the biggest accelerator for startups based in San Francisco in the US.
Oh.
And when we were there, we were represented, of course, by the co-founders. That is when COVID happened. In fact, he had to take the last flight out of the San Francisco to make it back home. Demo day was supposed to be a physical presentation to the investors, a pitch, but it was done virtually, which was a new experience. And we were not confident that we could make it, but graciously enough, we made it as the only HR tech startup in Africa. That was the unique aspect.
Wow.
And I think the decision makers were looking for something that could be disrupted in the future. And the future of work was a discussion that had started gaining some traction. And of course, there was excitement around how the future of work would be affected by COVID and by globalization and by technology. And luckily so, they invested in us. We got our first funding at the end of that process. We raised $2.1 million, which was a lot of money at the stage that we were in. And that is the money that gave us the fuel to expand our business and to expand our product. So from a team of less than 20, we were able to scale and double the team in a very short space. And that, of course, comes with a lot of challenges. And of course, maybe something I should highlight is when you do funding, also the expectations go through the roof. People expect you because now you have money.
Yeah, you are. Yeah,
bring
yeah.
those
It's not just
sales.
for free. It's not for free, right? Like you're working.
Yeah,
You're reporting into somebody. You've got to show results. Like
yeah.
I've got so many questions for you, Edwin. In terms of one, you know, I guess for me, like you're in Kenya. Like is there a lot of businesses like yours from a startup perspective? And forgive me, I'm not being ignorant in this regard, but like, is there much of a startup ecosystem like in where you are in Nairobi? Is it quite a strong like in terms of innovation and startup?
Yeah, so over the last 20 years, it has been a lot of movement on the startup field. And the reason I would say is we are leveraging on technology
Yeah.
to solve most of the continent's problems. Of course, we are a continent that did not go through industrial revolution properly. So we don't have a lot of structures, traditional structures like banks, all those things. And so with the coming of the technology and the mobile phone and putting power in people's hands, like of course, you know that M-Pesa, which is the financial mobile service, originated from Kenya and has had a tremendous effect on mobile banking across the continent. Of course, other telcos and other banks have also picked, and they're all over. They're regional players and they're local players. And that happened about 25 years ago. So I would say that we have now a lot of educated youth that are tech savvy, that are getting into the technology space and trying to solve for the problems that we have or the challenges that we have. And that has brought a very vibrant startup culture in Kenya and across the continent.
So in some regards, you're almost ahead in terms of like because you missed on aspects of the Industrial Revolution and we're now in this new revolution, and we'll come back to the business you're in, etc.
Yeah.
Like, what do you observe with that in terms of like, I mean, because yeah, like we're in this new revolution, like AI, everything, like everything's up for grabs. Like, we're in this new paradigm of business, we're in a new paradigm of leadership. Like, what are you noticing
Yeah.
around? Like, what are you seeing? Like, what have you observed?
I've seen a lot of people try to solve for different problems. Of course, whatever you're passionate about or whatever you think that you can be able to solve, and it's something that can be packaged into a product, automated, and is scalable. I have seen people venture into startups. I would give a case of Workpay. In the payroll space is a very complicated space.
Yeah,
And then initially, what was happening is that the corporates have already payroll solutions via their enterprise resource planning softwares. Talk about the people like SAP, people like Oracle, people like Microsoft Dynamics. They've already solved for payroll in the corporate enterprises. But then when you come down to we call them SME, small and medium enterprises, you find that either they are using various systems for different things, very fragmented systems that are not speaking to each other, or they're using on-premise. I'm trying to be very careful not to drop jargons here and say on-prem, but they're using on-premise software and they have not transitioned to cloud technology, or they're using semi-automated systems like spreadsheets, manual systems to calculate the payroll and pay their employees. So that is the context that we came through, and the idea of Workpay was actually triggered by the co-founder. One of the co-founders was employed by a company, and they used to be paid via an envelope,
there you
and
go.
the pay and the pay was not timely. So depending on the boss's mood, you would know whether you're getting
Paid or
paid
not.
or or it will have to be. And he thought this is very indignified. Like there is a better way of doing this, and he imagined a place where he can solve for SMEs and create for them payroll that is accurate, that is
Yeah,
timely, and that can give you your
consistent.
your payroll in a dignified manner. So we have solved for that space, but I think my observation is that there is still a lot of challenges that we are going through as a continent. And as many people get into the technology, or the technology become advanced, and it becomes easier to do things and faster, leveraging on technologies like the AI that is now leading. We are yet to see what the possibilities are, but we are on the right path. I think all the factors for a robust startup ecosystem in Africa are checked, and it's all systems go. So in the next 10 years, we'll see a lot of revolutions, people solving for local, and also expanding. Like for now, we have solved for Kenya, and now we have expanded regionally, and I think we will see a lot of that. And then what will happen then later is opportunities for mergers and acquisitions will happen, and we'll see business consolidating and becoming a bigger force that can now solve for the whole continent. Yeah.
Wow, exciting. I want to pivot a little bit. I want to talk to you about being a leader and, like you talked around you were a one person band when you were a founding member. And I want to start with leadership and what do you look out for and how do you ensure that your team is high performing? What is culture and values, and what, like, how do you create the culture in the organization you're in? Because when you're in startup and you're scaling, one minute you've got one person, and then the next minute you've got five people, and then you go from five to 10, and then you go from 10 to 15, and so on and so on. And I'm a massive believer in you can't have system without a culture, and you can't have culture without systems. And
Yeah.
back to the organized chaos. And then you've got these founders who personify the business, and quite often the founder, is the business, if you like. What's your what's your leadership, and kind of from a cultural perspective, what does that look like? And what does that mean for you or to you?
Yeah, so I think leadership is something that evolves because the organization evolves. I've seen the biggest impact on leadership is the inexperience that we come to leadership with. So when you're starting, you're not even thinking about management or leadership.
Oh, I've just lost you.
You wear multiple hats. You can't hear me.
Yeah, no, I can hear you now. I
Can
just
you hear?
lost you. I just lost you, but I've got you back. You're all good. Keep going.
Yeah, so I was saying that you start by wearing multiple hats when you're a startup. When you're a small team, you find people are able to do everything: operations, sales. Sometimes you're called to do customer account management, and you're able to do all those things. But as you scale, you now recognize the need for structures. So you start forming the departments, looking for managers, building them up. And then the other biggest challenge is that you will find that because of the maybe resource constraints, you're promoting good team members to be managers, and then they become managers for the first time, and they do not have leadership skills. They excelled as an employee, but now they have found themselves in an unfamiliar territory of management, and they're supposed to lead a team. And it can be chaotic, as you say, and you have to, as a leader, organize the chaos, figure out who is to be coached, who is to be shown how to lead by example, who is to be empowered by going through a training, all those things. And then, of course, you learn. Some people go through that and they don't become very good managers. Some people, you have to separate them for one reason or the other. Performance is a big thing, especially for me who leads a sales force. Numbers,
I lost you.
else. It's numbers. So if somebody is not delivering the numbers, you still have to have that uncomfortable conversation. Unfortunately, we've lost some, and we've gained more on the way. But I think you keep learning. And I said, keep learning, be open to making mistakes, fail fast. There is something that we say, fail fast. So that you can learn and pick from the mistakes that you made, and so that you can avoid making the same mistakes again. So I think that's the culture that you do. But from a cultural perspective, you have to look for people who are very hungry and who are very aligned to the vision that you have. They must want to do the same thing, because it requires going, extra mile for people to deliver the crazy expectations that a startup culture demands. So cultural fit is also something that is very important when you're hiring and when you're building a team.
Yeah, it's very true. What about when
Yeah.
it comes to, like, you just called it out actually, and like you go above and beyond. But there's for me, it's really important to ensure that, I burnt out. So, like in terms of scaling a business after however many years, it takes a lot out of you. One, how do you ensure that your team stays fresh? They have, that creativity, that innovation, when you talk even about sales and things like that, I'm a big believer that yes, numbers are really, really important, but as is intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, right? And so making sure that the team are coming to the business engaged, feeling like they've got purpose, and like you say, back to the vision. How do you also ensure that like they've got that what I call active recovery, so that they are they're on, and they're performing at their best. They're feeling, I say, shining their brightest, feeling and performing at their best. How do you get them? Yeah, how do you allow them to get into the flow state where they're focused, they're fully immersed in what they're meant to be doing? Because you can't be on 24/7. And a lot of businesses and a lot of startups expect, still expect that today. A lot don't anymore, but like there's still sometimes this expectation. That's not the new way. It's not the sustainable way to get the best out of your team, let alone get the results you're looking for in your business. What's your view on that?
I think the first wake up call was during COVID, and we were initially the culture was around coming to the office, and work happens at the office. And then we had this situation where we are forced to work remotely. And you have to go beyond and ask yourself, what is work? How do you define work? Are we
Yeah.
clear on what is expected of everyone? And we started now defining what we expect of our people. And then communication became very, very important. Clarity on the responsibility and the expectations became very clear. And I've seen that has had a tremendous shift in people's the way they handle things. And you tell someone, this is what I expect you to do on a day-to-day basis. And I will hold you accountable on this. And as long as you've done this and this and this, by 5:30 p.m., you can close your laptop. See you tomorrow at 8:30 or 9 a.m. And I've seen that give people room to recover. And of course, we don't work on weekends. We have like Saturday and Sunday. It's a day off for people. Again, they can do their personal errands and come back on Monday refreshed. We are a HR company, so we are also big on compliance. So we follow the labor laws. We have to force our people sometimes to take leave or days off.
Yeah.
If you're feeling that you're burnt out, like now I have a culture of at the end of the quarter, just the beginning of a new quarter, I tell my people to take a block of like 10 days leave, so that they can go and switch off and rejuvenate and come back refreshed and ready to handle the new quarter expectations. And I've seen that take a shift. Initially, we used just to go and go and go, and then by the end of the year, people have accumulated leave days and they are so tired. And then not, all the people can't go on leave at the same time. We have to take leave days forward to the next year and sometimes compensate people for some leave
Yeah.
days, which is of course taking a toll on people's mind space and everything. But I think over time now we've had, of course, once you're beginning, and I say it's a journey. Once you're beginning, you wear many hats. You don't actually, because you're so passionate about what you're doing, you don't even know how it is taking a toll on you.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
later on, like year 2, year 3, you know, we are here for a long run. I have to balance. I have a family that I need to take care of. I have some other responsibilities that I need to do, and you start creating that balance, knowing that it will probably be a longer time than you thought, and you have to also do, and you have to create that balance. And lastly, maybe I speak. We had to come back to the office after COVID, but we've now implemented a hybrid structure where we allow our people to just come to the office for 2 days in a week. And it's basically for collaboration, because the work has already been defined
Yeah.
and it can be done anywhere. So the idea is then if you come to the office, It breaks the boredom of working from home. And of course, if you have anything that you'd want to collaborate with your manager or with another team member, then you're able to utilize the days that you come to the office to do that for better collaboration. And we've seen also that improve the culture and have people doing more when they do not have to do daily commute. We have sometimes it can get very crazy around Nairobi, the city, with traffic jams. I had a case of a colleague who was spending at least 3 hours on traffic in the morning and in the evening. By the time
Wow.
they come to the office, they're already their mind is not is very distorted, and then by the evening they are thinking, how can I leave maybe an hour earlier so that I can be able
Avoid
to
the
beat the
traffic. Yeah,
traffic?
it's crazy.
And yeah, so the hybrid has also relaxed a bit of that and allows people to sit and focus on the job. Yeah.
You've got such your energy and you're just talking, you're so focused and
Yeah.
you're so business astute. Like I love it, but you're also such a caring. You've got this care coming through and this empathy that shines through. I know as also as a founding member and someone as part of scaling a business that, it's you're very much leading for your people and ensuring everything is kind of like you say, as a leader, you're organizing that chaos. What do you do for you? Like, how do you ensure, like, how do you make sure you remain inspired? How do you make sure you're looking after you also? Like, do you prioritize? Do you make sure you're a priority as well?
That's a very interesting question and very difficult to answer. And for the first few years, I think I was a casualty together with our other co-founders. We were in the trenches. I think um, there is no room for anything else. You immerse yourself. You're wearing multiple hats. You're talking to customers. You're signing new customers. You're helping with product issues. But then you raise money and you hire managers. And I think the shift was, how do we, as top leadership, empower these managers
Yeah,
and be able to trust them and delegate to them the things that we are leading, so that now we are left at the top leadership to deal with strategy, to deal with the investor relations,
focus.
to do with strategic business development, and all that. And I think that evolution I have seen happen. And of course, as I get more people as I said, now I have two VPs who report to me. I have two direct reports right now. But initially, there was a time I had a lot of other managers reporting to me. I think the biggest number I had was 13 managers
Wow.
reporting to me, and we had to realign a lot of stuff for that structure to happen, to allow me to have that space where I can lead strategy and lead more strategic things. And as a leadership team, we've be cognizant of this, and we have had to go through trainings. We do strategy retreats. Awareness. We are taking leaves. I've just come back from a 2 week leave, and I can tell you I did not have the temptation to open my laptop to
Woo, well
reply to an
done. I
email.
love that. Yes, it's so good because the business can run
uh,
without you. It's so cool. Edwin, I've
yeah,
got two
yeah,
two final questions for you. Well, they're
yeah.
not really questions. I don't always do this, but given we're so far away from each other, and lots of similarities and in terms of business and leadership, is there anything you want to ask me? I'm putting you on the
Maybe,
spot.
maybe what are some of the leadership styles that you've seen um, work very well with startups? And I ask this because startups are sometimes put on the spot for leading a toxic culture environment. I think sometimes it's a misunderstanding between the management or the founders who are pushing for results, and then we have this generation, new Gen Zs who require a bit of flexibility, a bit of empathy, and all that. What have you seen by talking to the people that you've seen? How are they dealing with this new
Yeah, it's
change?
a good question.
Because our generation, the toxic, we understood it and we knew that is work. But now you have a new generation that if you push them, a bit, you can very easily be branded toxic, and that boundary is
Yeah,
becoming very thin now. Yeah,
it's a really great question. I'm so glad you asked it. It's really interesting. So I've done over 250 interviews now globally around the world this year through my
yeah,
podcast, and
wow,
I have actually found, and I mean, it for me, what's coming up, and based on all my experience in leadership and all the different generations, and we've got 5 generations in business now. Oh, that's clapping, you're clapping me, but that's okay. And essentially, I'm terming it, which I'll break it down, that a leader needs to be soulful. They need to be leading for their people. They need to be able to have that care, that empathy. They need to be leading from the inside out. They need to be ensuring that they're true to their own purpose, their own values, their own integrity, and have that ability to tap into the inner intuition. The answers come from within when you're a leader. It's generally not looking at, the external. It starts within here. So I think that's the first point for me from a soulful perspective. And how do you ensure that you're present? When I talk about present, we're being present with each other right here, right now with these younger generations, like when we're so busy and we're in startup and everything's like chaotic, I used to do it. You're not necessarily present with your people, and it's really important that you are present with your people. So I think you need to be soulful. I think you absolutely, I call it soulful high flow conscious leadership. And the high flow piece for me is the performance. How do you ensure you're getting the best out of your people and yourselves and ensuring that everyone's feeling and performing at their best. So, what does that look like? That's structure. That's being very clear on, what are we aiming for here? Like, what are our goals? What are our intentions? What's the structure? What's the systems? How do we get everyone working together? What are the triggers that are actually going to ensure that the team have shared clear goals? They're, got a familiarity around how they're all working together. What's the shared risk? So they're for me, like what perform from a performance perspective. And then the soulful high flow conscious is, if the conscious is being the awareness of when you're stressed or when you're not performing at your best, and having that ability to go back to, okay, what's happening here, but then also having the awareness of what's happening with your team and the people around you, and being really clear with, understanding what's going on with this younger generation. Why aren't they performing the way they should be performing? Asking the
yeah,
questions, getting those feedback loops happening. And so that for me is, from a conscious perspective, and then, soulful high flow conscious leadership, there's also the purpose piece. And so, what's the purpose in terms of what's the purpose of the business? What's the purpose of the team? And
yeah.
ultimately, it comes down to people, presence, purpose, and performance. That's for me ultimately what the next the new form of leadership looks like. And I hope I've explained myself clearly enough for you, but it really is. It's that soulfulness, it's that ability to still have the performance, have the awareness and the purpose, and lead for your people.
Very well answered. Thank you so much.
No, you're
Maybe my
welcome.
my
Pardon?
last one is what's the idea of Bee Formless? What
Oh,
is the inspiration and why do you do what you do?
yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, thank you. Bee Formless, well, it's inside. I'm all around. Well, my business is all around reshaping life, leadership, and business, right? And so the old way of doing business is no longer sustainable. We learnt that through COVID, but yet a lot of us are still in this rat race, and so and I was included, and obviously burnt out. And so you talk around failure and is the fuel for innovation and change. Here's the thing, we're in this rapidly changing world. We're constantly evolving and we're constantly shaping and reshaping. And it's the same that goes with leadership. It's the same with it, whether we're working with our customers or whatever. And so the formless is that ability to be able to adapt and go from an existing form and learn what you need to learn, and it comes back to the soulful high flow conscious leadership to then go, all right, this is no longer serving me, this is no longer serving me as a leader, this is no longer serving me as a team or as a business. What's the friction, what's the blocks? And then when you realize what's no longer working, well then how do we reimagine and create, and what do we reshape? And that's when you go into the formless. And then you come out and then it's okay. And then how do we test and iterate so that we are harnessing failure, because it's a cycle that I've created, a continuous cycle. And so
Yeah.
for me, that was my own lived experience. And this is what I see as the future of leadership and business. And I'm really passionate about, you know, uh, trailblazing like people like yourselves and other leaders around the world, and making a difference in the world and in leadership and business.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that is that. But Edwin, it's been such a joy talking to you. I have one,
Yeah.
it could be a bit random, but one last thing I'd love you to share is I'd love you to share whether it's a quote or something from a cultural perspective that you do in Kenya that you would love to leave with the audience. That's
Um,
That's like
wow.
reflective of change or reflective of innovation. There might be a phrase or it might be, yeah, I'd love you to share something or leave something with us that reflects your your culture from a Kenya Nairobi perspective.
Um, I think we are go-getters. Um, one of the one of our core values as a company was shared from a quote by Steve Jobs, 2005 Stanford commencement speech, where he said, "Stay hungry, stay foolish." And I think I will want to echo for the audience listening to this, that you have to keep on going. We have that culture in Workpay and we have it in Kenya. You have seen in all the spheres of our lives, even our athletes,
Yes. Oh
we
my
go
God.
for it.
You've got some
We go
amazing.
for it. We go for it, and I have seen this in many aspects, and wherever Kenyans are, and I have a friend of mine who is even in Australia. They go there, and the mindset is that I have to succeed. There is no going back. And that's our mindset. So we stay hungry, and then of course stay foolish is in the respect of you have to keep learning. You have to have the humility that you don't know everything. You don't have all the answers,
No,
and unless you have that mindset, then you're not open to new information, and then absorbing the new information and making sure that it is changing you and you're improving day by day. I'm a big fan
no,
of the Japanese term kaizen,
yeah,
keep improving.
so
So,
true. Yeah, very good. And
yeah,
Edwin, thank you so much. So we can find out more about you on your website, which is myworkpay.com. Is that right?
yeah, correct.
And we can find you on LinkedIn under Edwin Mangi EDU. Is that right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, you have it.
Awesome.
You can probably share the link for anyone who wants
I've got the
to
links.
connect
It's
with
okay.
me.
I just wanted to triple check it.
Thank
I'll
you
put
so
them in the
much.
show
Yeah.
notes. But and when maybe we'll have a conversation this time next year or maybe sooner, and hear like I'd love to hear how you're going as a leader, but also like what you're seeing in 2026, and also how your business is continuing to scale and grow. Thank you so much for your time. Have a lovely Wednesday afternoon.
Thank you so much, B. It's a pleasure to talk to you. I have gained a new friend in a new continent, and I'm looking forward to connecting in future.
Yeah, you too. Thank you. Take care.